Hello, and welcome to my 31st October. I'm Lucky27, and this is a series of stories I have often told about my life. Today's story is entitled Cemeteries. Forgive my absence. I've not posted for a while, and I could give you reasons. Mostly, I've been tired. The last few months have been exhausting, both physically and otherwise. I lost another client to unknown circumstances, and she wasn't only a client but a friend and a coworker. A bright light extinguished too soon. There's been changes in the relationships of the people around me and turmoil in the air. I have also made new friends in strange places and have felt alive again. Perhaps the survival mode I've been in for the last several years is wearing off, or, more likely, I'm starting to reconnect. I've felt the need lately to find a cemetery and hunker down. To connect with my surroundings, if you will. I've not visited a cemetery in nearly 5 years, and haven't felt the pull to do so since before the pandemic. But now I feel like I should. Trouble is, my husband is still in that other mode, and would insist on coming with me, bless him. But I need to find a place soon. That being said, I thought I'd talk a little about my love of cemeteries. I know that most people find them to be scary, or even a waste of space. But I find them to be something a little bit more. There are some people that find them fascinating for the sake of history, or to appear cool or gothic, and that's fair. I love them for the history as well. Only I've not actually met a person in my life that would go to a cemetery just for the sake of being there, and not get bored or want to leave quickly. I am this kind of person. I don't want to leave. I don't know when or why it started for me. I can't remember a time that I was ever afraid of a cemetery. The first one I can remember was where my grandfather was buried. It was a large, well-kept place with lush green grass and pretty bushes surrounding it, blocking it from the road. We used to visit at least once a year from the time I was a child, and I always felt at peace there. But my family didn't really ever want to hang around and visit the others buried there. So I didn't get to spend much time there. It was a ways away from home, so I couldn't just go whenever I wanted. But after my uncle, my grandfather's son, died in 1995, he was also buried there. He was buried in a different area than my grandfather, so we would have to walk around to find him. That meant I got to spend more time there. But I haven't been there in probably close to a decade at this point. It was one of the only cemeteries I had been in until I was an adult. Every time I saw a sign for a cemetery, or if I saw tombstones from the road, I would ask if we could go visit, but nobody ever wanted to go. I remember once, during Christmas time, when I was around 9 or 10, my mom took my sister and I out one night to a fancy neighborhood where everyone for about 2 blocks had opened their homes up to the public for a huge gingerbread house contest. We were going in and out of these really nice houses to judge the gingerbread houses that they had built. It was all fine and good, and the houses were nice, but I was bored after maybe 6 houses. I noticed that across the street a little ways was a wrought iron fence surrounding large trees on what looked like a mound of some kind. It was nighttime, so I couldn't see what I was actually looking at was the fence to an old cemetery. After a few houses, I saw a small gate and decided that I was going to go in and see what was there. But it was across the street, and my mom caught me before I could go in. I, however, made it to the gate and saw the tombstones before she grabbed me. I remember being in trouble for that, but I still remember the sight that was before me. It was so calm and peaceful, and all I wanted was to go inside and explore. But we never went there again. I also used to visit the cemetery in my husband's hometown when I lived there as a teenager. But that was mostly to visit with a classmate that had been killed in a car accident during the time around the 4th of July, my 10th grade year. He had been in the seat behind me during Spanish class, so we spoke often and traded notes when he was alive. Unfortunately, drunk teens driving too fast is a reality, and though he was in the back seat, he didn't make it. The other 3 boys that were there with him survived, but were never quite the same. I had been in biology with the driver in 10th grade, and he had been so alive and popular. But after the accident, he was hardly a shell of the boy I knew. I felt bad for him, but I figured he wouldn't appreciate me saying anything about it. So I used to go visit the boy that died to keep him company. And yes, I still remember his name, but I won't say it here. I remember both of their names. Then, in a different state, my sister and I stumbled onto an old cemetery when I was maybe 19 or 20 years old, in the town that I was later to move to with my husband. It was founded in 1903, and it was beautiful. I wanted to spend all day there, but my sister got bored after maybe a half hour. I honestly don't remember what we were up to that led us there that day, but I still remember it fondly. I do remember feeling uneasy the closer to the river we got, and I have mentioned that river in another video about my apartment hauntings that took place in that area. But I was peaceful nonetheless. After that place, my sister found a small old plot of land that had large tombstones and cemetery urns from the 1800s on it. She had made me cover my eyes before we got there, so I didn't know where it was. But they were doing construction right next to it, so there's every possibility that it is gone now. But we only stayed for maybe 15 minutes. It was beautiful, though. After that, I started visiting the cemetery in downtown. I rode public transit all the time that I was that age, and knew there was a cemetery that I could get to easily. I went there for years. I used to write my stories, or draw, or just meditate while I was there. I honestly can't think of a time or place in my life, besides the library, where I felt at peace and unburdened. But then I got together with my husband, and I moved back to his hometown to be with him. I had thought that I would just go spend some time with my classmate again, tell him about everything that had happened since I'd been gone, but the town had changed in the few years that I had been gone, and it was no longer safe for a young woman to go walking around by herself in that part of town. So I couldn't just go whenever I wanted, and my husband and I worked at different times of the day, so finding a time that he could go with me was next to impossible. So I never got to go back to see my friend, nor was there another cemetery in the area that I could get to. Then I moved back to the state where my family is. But I was so busy with school and work that I didn't find the time to get back to my downtown cemetery. Then my husband and I moved to the town with the cemetery from 1903, but that was where we had those haunted apartments, and my husband didn't want me going to cemeteries in that town alone, since it was also a bad place to walk alone. Unbeknownst to us, however, the part of town we had chosen to live in was also surrounded by cemeteries, which I found out when that friend of mine that needed my help with her house asked me to help her with something else that required us finding a cemetery. And no, we weren't burying a body. We looked on Google Maps for cemeteries and found that our part of town had cemeteries on all 4 sides of it. I knew we couldn't just go to the one near the river since the bad juju in town had kinda overtaken it, and the one nearest to us, which we saw all the time but never went in, was closing at the time we were trying to go. So we ended up in a little out-of-the-way cemetery that had good vibes. We found a place near the grave of a woman whose name I don't remember, and we sat and talked about what we needed to talk about. We both felt that the nice woman whose grave we were on was watching over our conversation, and we resolved what she needed resolved. Whether or not she has ever returned there without me, I don't know. But that was the last time I was in a cemetery. My husband and I moved back to his hometown, and were talking about visiting my friend, but the pandemic hit, and then we moved away, and now I feel the pull again. My husband once asked me, out of nowhere, if I liked cemeteries. We had been together for maybe 8 months as a couple, and living together for a couple of months at that point. I was surprised, as I hadn't mentioned it to him before, since most people look at me funny whenever I say I like cemeteries, and I wasn't looking to see that look on his face. So I was taken aback that he was asking me like he was. Cautiously, I told him that I did, in fact, like cemeteries, and he said that he figured. When I asked him why it figured that I liked cemeteries, he stated that he thought I might like cemeteries because I'm a healer type. Now, this was years before I started doing my profession. I worked in office jobs, or retail jobs, or fast food jobs. I had no idea what he was talking about. He explained to me that the reason I liked cemeteries is because I gain energy while among the dead. That where most people are unnerved by the energy that bodies release while in the earth, healers find it peaceful and can feel more connected to the energy that is being released back into the world bits at a time. The quiet of the cemetery can focus my mind, and my energy isn't being consistently drained from me like it is during everyday life. Instead, I can tap into the energy released into the earth and use it to strengthen myself. He said that it is a rare gift, but a gift all the same. I don't steal energy to use it for bad, so those I tap into are happy to give it, which is why I have never felt threatened in a cemetery. I could live in a cemetery and be perfectly happy. My husband wouldn't, but he's not a healer type, and though not unnerved by the dead, doesn't prefer them to the living. I'm sure there are a million other reasons why I'm happy in cemeteries, where others find them terrifying. But his logic makes sense to me, especially now that I have the profession that I do. Energy work is a daily thing for me, and I am far more connected to that part of myself than I have ever been. But I think it's about time I find me a cemetery. I'm tired, and I've never tried to connect to the land in this state. If I find the time, I'll let you know what I find. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed the journey. I'm not sure how often I'll be posting something here, so leave a like, hit the subscribe button and the bell so you get updated when I do post. If you have questions or want to know more about something I've said, leave a comment and maybe I'll make a video explanation on the subject. But please be polite and courteous with the comments. My feelings don't get hurt, but the world has enough hate and judgment in it. It doesn't need yours on this video. If you think you know who I am, please don't leave a comment guessing my identity. Just send me an email at the address in the description box. Thanks again, and I'll see you when I see you.